Sammy obviously brings – he's a hot button issue, right? Like every year at Cubs convention, when they have it, obviously not the last 2 years, but like the Sammy questions are going to come. So Cody, you were in there for the family panel, which I would say from what I can tell, there wasn't like you said, there wasn't a ton of negativity, but it's always going to be around this because there are fans that are angry that Sammy's not back at the ballpark, right?
Yeah. I'll say the most negativity came related to Sammy Sosa, and then some lady had the audacity to ask about the sports book, which I could go on a rant about that later in the show if you want me to. But it was mainly about Sammy Sosa. And I'll say this much. The Ricketts did this on purpose, putting themselves first, because like that room was empty at 9 a.m. Like, I mean, not empty, but there weren't like, it wasn't packed like all the rest of them were. So, whatever. That's my 2 cents on it. But yeah, the Sammy stuff was probably the most, I guess, tension that was created in that 45 minutes or whatever.
All right, let's hear the first question from the fan about Sammy Sosa to Tom Ricketts.
Sammy Sosa. He was inducted North Race from the 90s into the Hall of Fame last night, which is awesome. I'm a kid from the 90s, and what's the progress with Sammy?
Well, I don't think there's really any progress with Sammy. Nothing's really changed that I know of anyway. Obviously, I see kind of, I see both sides of this issue or this discussion, and I hope someday that we come to like a really nice resolution with it. But I don't really have anything new to report on Sammy today.
Bring it back! Keep the questions rolling here. We're gonna go over there.
So that's the first part, and then there's another portion or a follow-up question about it, right? Let's just do that one right away.
Yeah, go ahead.
You and your family are not the reasons why I watch baseball. I watch baseball because of Sammy Sosa. Probably because of Jerry Burns too. So I guess my question is, what do you view as the two sides? Because from a fan perspective, it is very one-sided that he is the reason why I watch and why I've been a Cubs fan for 25 years.
I was just back to Sammy.
Yeah, Tom.
Well, look, I think there are two sides here. Obviously, look, everyone can have an opinion on it, but obviously the voters, the Hall of Fame voters, believe there's two sides to this story. I know there's a lot of fans that have reached out to me directly that believe there's two sides to this story. I'd like to get it behind us as well, but I just want to be thoughtful about it and do it in a way that's respectful of both the people that love Sammy as a player, as I did, and people that respect the game too. And I think there's a balance in there somewhere, and maybe we'll find that at some point. But it's not something that I don't know. I don't think the final chapter is written on this, but and we'll always be open-minded to find a way that works for everyone. But for the time being, I don't really have any like super updates on it.
So applause at the end of that. Our YouTube chat's really been good on this, and nice job getting the videos on that because I did want to hear those answers, Cody. So Barbara pointed out that Sammy used to get booed at the convention. Yeah, his departure was not good. Mm-hmm. The reason I would like to see him come back is that I think forgiveness is a beautiful thing. And if you can do that, I think we're a forgiving fan base. We're a forgiving country. We're forgiving people. So, if he didn't harm you in some specific way personally, maybe he has to do something. Maybe there's some way they can work this out. Ricketts seems slightly open to that. I don't think he totally shut it down in that second answer, which I think was a good one. Little Yumper with a $10 super chat saying, Sammy owns the Ricketts nothing if he doesn't want a job. The Ricketts need to get off their high horse. Selig is in the hall, who allowed all the steroid era to run rampant. Yeah. That's a fair argument, too. I mean, I do think it's a two-sided argument. I don't think it's one-sided. However, believing that it's a two-sided argument, I would like to see them find a way for him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on what Tom had to say is, I guess for years I feel like he was just it always came off as like he, that he was calling the shots on this, and now he's using the Cubs Hall of Fame as an excuse, perhaps, or whatever. Like the Cubs Hall of Fame voters clearly have an issue with it, and listen, he's the freaking owner. Like, you can do whatever you want. You own the team, man. Like, and if you really love Sammy, like he literally said in that video that he did, then he can do that. And he said something about how, he wants to be respectful and thoughtful of, like, I guess the voters, I guess he was pointing at. But I don't know, man. Like, we're not talking about, no offense to Sean Dunston, but like, Sammy Sosa created a whole generation of fans. We did the video with Joey Molinaro, and when he said, if you watch that video, he literally said that too in that. And like, there's plenty of people of me and Ryan's generation that believe that. And like, I just feel like I don't even care if there's a statue. I don't even care if he's in the Cubs Hall of Fame. All I care about is that there's some sort of relationship, that like, invite him back, have him sit behind home plate, kiss some babies, wave at the fans, run out to the right field with the Chicago flag. I don't care. Like that's genuinely all I care about. Like, the fact that we just, like, they continue to promote him on marquee. If you were at the convention this weekend, there was a archive room where they had all these awards that guys on the team have won. There was multiple Sammy Sosa awards, or awards that Sammy Sosa won, in that archive room. And it's like, you're going to continue to use his name to promote you and whatever, but not like at least have some sort of relationship with him. Like, that's what bothers me. As much as I want him to be in the Cubs Hall of Fame or to have a statue, because I think he deserves one. He has more home runs than anyone else in Cubs history, all that. Like, to me, that's what bothers me the most about it, and why I'm always going to be loud about this. And until ownership or whoever, the Cubs Hall of Fame voters, just get off their high horse, I guess, like, I'm just going to continue to feel this way, and I'm always going to feel this way.
We have another
Sammy,
super chat, by the way.
I just wanted to say real quick,
Yeah,
about that. I mean, I when Ricketts talks about seeing both sides, there's the side that they're on, and they weren't the owners when the whole ugly breakup happened. Him walking out last day of the season. They weren't owners while he played for the team, but the fact, and I saw someone make the point, and I don't remember where I read it, that it may not all be the Ricketts. I mean, there are a lot of influential players, that played prior to Sammy Sosa or with Sammy, or whatever, that Ryan Sandberg among them. I'm not saying that Ryan Sandberg doesn't want Sammy Sosa to be welcomed back to the Cubs, but he talked about Sammy. I think it might have been Paul Sullivan from the Trib kind of asked him about it, that he talked about, when Ryan Sandberg was inducted to the Hall of Fame 28 times, he used something about playing the game the right way or respecting the game. Obviously, Sammy has an ugly history with that, as far as the cork bat, as far as potential PED use. Again, not saying that Ryan Sandberg is telling Ricketts not to let him back, but there may be those kind of feelings going through the Cubs organization that isn't just from the Ricketts side, and that may be one, some of those things that's like. And I know one of the things is kind of, if Sammy were to kind of publicly admit that he did things wrong, maybe that helps mend the fences. Sammy probably doesn't want to do that because I know he's talked about in interviews, talking about kind of feeling scapegoated for this whole era, when other guys have kind of gotten the forgiveness that, whatever that they earned or whatever. But then there's also, for me, it's when Ricketts talks about both sides, you got the Ricketts side and the Cubs, and you got Sammy's side. To me, there's a third side. To me, there's the fan side. And this is kind of going into what Cody said, that the fans most fans have forgiven Sammy. I would say most of the vocal majority of the fans have forgiven Sammy for what happened and want him back. They don't want him to be like the owner of the team or any of that stuff, or whatever. It's just welcome him back to the Cubs family, like you do with all these other alumni that are there every single year at Cubs convention, spring training, walking around Wrigley, whatever. The people want him back, and I don't know if when you look at it and look at the Ricketts, it's like, yes, they have their own, morals or pride or whatever. Sammy's going to have his own morals, pride, whatever. But it should always go to what the fans want, right? Like that's what, you're putting it. I mean, it's a sport, yes, but it's an entertainment product, and the way you're going to entertain, like, your whole thing is supposed to be catered to the fans and the fan experience and what the fans want. And if the majority of fans want Sammy Sosa back into that, and back into the Cubs family, I think the Ricketts and the rest of the Cubs have to acknowledge that's a legitimate side that deserves to be heard when it comes to Sammy. It's not just Ricketts versus Sammy. It's not just Cubs versus Sammy. It's like the fans are in that conversation as well, and should be in that conversation as well, because this is a fan thing, right? You're honoring a guy that was a fan favorite to a whole generation of Cubs fans that made, like that guy said in the video, is the reason why they watched Cubs baseball. So I'm not saying that should be the biggest influence on whether he gets it or not, but it's just they have to be part of the conversation. Cubs fans should be part of the conversation of, if they're still considering this stuff with Sammy, listen to what the fans want to.
Yeah, and you're right, Ryan. There are certainly a large group of former players that do not like the guys that were obvious steroid users. Like, if they weren't steroid users and then they watched the steroid era, it's not just the baseball writers keeping Sammy and Clemens and those guys out of the Hall of Fame. There are also a lot of former players that are very, very vocal about not wanting those guys. The one flip side I would say to this is that I want Sammy back, but I also don't get why Sammy just won't meet halfway, right? Like, I don't know why he just won't swallow the pride a little bit and be like, I'm sorry. I don't think he has to even come out and say, I did steroids. I just think he should come out and say, I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't leave on the right terms. I wish I wouldn't have left the way I left, but this is home and this is where my people are, my fans are. I want to be back. And so for anybody that I hurt, anybody I disrespected, I'm asking for forgiveness. I'd like to be back. I think it could be that simple, really. Like, one statement like that, I think, would be enough for people to bring him back. But I just don't know how. I just don't see him meeting that halfway until he's really desperate for the attention. And it doesn't seem like he's that way anymore. Like, I think he's happy staying away. I think he'd like to be back, but I don't know. It's sort of fascinating.